Okay, so I was reading more Brene Brown because that's my life now, and I didn't even remember that it was all the way back at some of her earlier work when she was discussing um, the word courage and heart. And I've talked about this a lot before, and I think it's been so long since I learned it that I stopped explaining all of it. And when I read this, I was like, oh, this is really good. We should talk about this. So the root of the word courage is cor, and in Latin, that's the word for heart. In one of its earliest forms, the word courage had a very different definition than it does today. Courage originally meant to speak one's mind by telling all one's heart. Like, shoot. Like, how much courage does it really take to speak up when we feel like we may not have those words received well, or it may place us in kind of a vulnerable space? I think a lot. And over time, this definition has changed, and today, courage is more synonymous with being heroic. And heroics is important, and we certainly need heroes, but I think we've lost touch with the idea that speaking honestly and openly about who we are, about what we're feeling, and about our experiences, both good and bad, is the definition of courage. Heroics is often about putting our life on the line. Ordinary courage is about putting our vulnerability on the line. I think if we can recall moments when we were maybe so scared or embarrassed that you wish you could just disappear, maybe not having to put on that kind of heroic space, you can kind of identify that having the courage to speak to your truth is significantly more powerful, I think, than just being in broad spectacle. Be willing to have conversations with other people that identify who we are, what we believe in, what we believe is important, and to share compassion with each other rather than getting real wild. We're going to do a lot of steady cooling spaces today. I was out with some friends this weekend, and one of them asked me, at what point does it stop being yoga and it starts becoming just exercise and stretching? Because we were talking about different adaptations of yoga and how I teach metal yoga, and there's all these other different ways that people approach the practice. And he's like, well, when is it not yoga anymore? But it's not yoga when we are no longer concerned with the coordination and connection between the body, the mind, and the breath. When we leave all of those things together, when that's the focus of the practice, even if it's not moving the body, it's just where am I at in space, what's going on here. It's the breath, the mind, and stilling all of the stirrings, as Patanjali says. Yoga is the ceasing of the stirrings of the mind. So we'll focus very deeply today and just kind of weaving in the breath and the body and where our headspace is at. Go ahead and place your hands in your lap, roll your shoulders around a few times. Be shifting around a little bit to loosen up around your torso. Start off with a few cooling breaths, making that tiny little O in your lips, barely sticking the tongue out the bottom, taking an inhale, exhale. Inhaling through that tiny little O, exhale. Just do that 3 more times. As you exhale, beginning to breathe a bit more normally. Just thinking cool, centered, present in this practice. Taking a deep breath in through your nose. exhale through the mouth. Again, like that. For 3 ohms. Start to open your eyes. If you are not seated cross-legged, just hang out where you're at. You don't need to change anything. If you are seated cross-legged, just change the cross of your legs. We're going to do a little bit of movement like that and then go back to another position or just staying where your legs are at this point. Take your arms and lift them up, and it's fine if they don't get really close together. You can leave them a little bit more separate or bent. I'm just going to let this open space around your body. So there's room for the air to flow. Taking another big stretch up as you breathe in. And as you exhale, take your right hand down and bring a little side bend over towards the left side. The right side, whichever way you're bending right now. Take an inhale and an exhale. And inhale, coming up and lifting up at the top. And then as you exhale, bend over towards the other side. You let that arm come slightly forward. Stay there as you breathe in. And there as you breathe out. Inhale, lift the body up. Exhale, side bend. Feel yourself getting longer as you breathe in. More grounded as you breathe out. Again, inhale, lifting up. Exhale, side bend. Relax the back of your neck and shoulders. Stay there as you breathe in. Stay there as you breathe out. Inhale to the center. Exhale, side bending to the right. Stay there, breathe in. Stay there, breathe out. Inhale to the center. Exhaling over towards the left. This is the last one. Breathing in here and breathing out. And then coming up to the center. Go ahead and place your hands on your legs, and if they're out in front of you, not crossed, or you're in a chair, this will also be absolutely fine for you to just rest your heart back. As your heart drops back, rounding in your spine, let your belly fall back, and let your head move forward. So a little softening and curling inwards, maybe a little stretching around the back. Soften into your next exhale. And then lifting yourself up. If you've got your legs in any position but crossed, you'll leave them where they are. If you do have your legs crossed, just go ahead and cross them back towards that slightly more, the good side, the one that's usually a little bit more open. And then start to take your hands out in front of you, and they might go just from your knees like down to your shins if your legs are out in front of you. It doesn't have to be a lot. You might go out a couple of inches. You might walk yourself forward until you come into more of that rounded spine. It's okay to round in here. Make sure you don't feel any tension in your lower back. If you feel any tension in the lower back, come back where it's comfortable and then soften where it's comfortable, and then see what other kind of spaces might open up for you. Coming back into your breath, you can always pull out that Sitali breath, the frosted Cheerio breath, the tiny little O of your lips that might help to cool you down. Deep breath in.
Deep breath out. And starting to walk your hands back in. And we're gonna kind of sit over on one hip, so I'll mirror you. If you've got anything underneath your hips, you wanna move it off to the side. And you're gonna come into that pinwheel shape. So you've got one shin that's parallel with the long end of your mat and one shin that's parallel with the short end of your mat. And we're gonna start off by going backwards here. So finding a stretch to the front of your, your left thigh. If you're mirroring me, you can let that hip glide up. Maybe you walk your hands back. Maybe you come onto a forearm. And of course you don't need to. Let the hip move up before you let the knee move up. Just stay for another 3 steady breaths. And then take your left hand and go ahead and doggy paddle your way up so that you're coming out over your front leg, so over your right leg. It's okay if you want to go a little bit more over towards the thigh. If you can get a little bit more over towards the shin, might feel a little bit more opening in the outside of the hip, but go ahead and find some place that's just comfortable for you today, especially when it's hot. We talked about there being a lot of extra room in the body, a lot of extra mobility, so you want to make sure you don't go too far. Better to stick somewhere that it's comfortable, and instead of going for crazy gymnastics of the body, we stick with that mind, body, breath connection that's the root of our practice. Two more breaths. Start walking your hands back to you a little bit. We're going to go a little bit weirder than we usually do in combining these two poses. You're going to take your back leg, move it back just a little bit. And then you're going to go over, so you're laying more on your hip. You see, kind of like lift up this, the left side here. So you're a little bit more over your right hip or your right thigh. You can even be on the other side of it. And you're just going to soften your heart towards the floor. It's possible that your opposite elbow could come down. That actually feels like a lot of a twist to me, and I don't really want to go that far, and it's fine if yours doesn't either. You don't even have to be on this elbow. You could be up on your hand. You want to just gently start to revolve your heart towards the floor. Letting your belly get soft. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then if you're down on one or both of your forearms, start to walk your hands back up. And then we're going to come over towards the other side. I'm just going to flip over here so that you've got one shin at the long end and one shin at the short end. You should be able to now stretch out the front of the thigh that you did not stretch out before. Walking your hands back, leaving the knee down, the hip might lift. You can come down onto a forearm if that's easy and comfortable and steady in your body. You could massage your thigh if that is more effective at relaxing the tissue than trying to go into some wild stretch. Three more breaths. And when you finish that exhale, taking your right hand over, doggy paddling yourself up a bit until you come out and over your left shin or your front shin. You don't need to come all the way over to the shin. You could go more over towards the thigh today. Just finding a good space in which you can breathe. Be be present here. A good way to stir up the mind is to challenge the body, especially challenging our perceptions of our body. So sometimes we stir up the mind on purpose in yoga by doing really hard poses and then cultivate the skill of calming ourselves back down when we get into those poses. But today, just try to remain in that unstirred sort of space. You notice yourself getting stirred, let things start to wind on down. Maybe you back out of a pose so that you can relax a little bit more in your brain. One more breath in. One more breath out. And then coming up a little bit, so you just move that back leg back a little bit more. You can even move this leg in. So you just got a little bit more room to come over just on the other side of your thigh bone now. So we were going more towards the lower leg bone. Now we're going on the other side of the thigh bone. It gets much twistier. Bodies are weird. This time it feels fine to let my elbow go down. So just notice if maybe this is not your more loose side. Just being aware of that. Soft with yourself about it. Big breath in. Big breath out. And starting to come up. Move ourselves into a seat with the feet out in front of us, toes face forward, fingertips back, elbows point back. And then start to lift your chest up, stretching out the front of your shoulders, letting your heart move forward into the front of your rib cage. You might look upwards, soften your jaw, your throat, and see if then you can open up your heart a little bit more. Exhaling, let your heart start to soften back. And then roll yourself over until you're down on your belly. Rest your head in your hands, like a pillow has been placed there for your forehead. And take a few steady, easy breaths. From here, coming up onto your forearms, bringing your elbows in underneath your shoulders. Try to soften your shoulders back, so not pushing or jamming, but making sure that your heart is as open as you have the space for today. And then inhale, start to look up. And then exhale, tuck the chin towards your chest. Maybe your heart moves back a little bit. And then inhale, the heart moves forward, you look up. Exhale, rounding a little bit more. The shift that happens here is very, very slight if the heart moves at all. Just think of the heart moving forward towards your elbows, inside of the ribs. The heart moving back towards your hips, inside of the ribs, and nothing too wild. Maybe you've got about 2 more rounds of this. Come out towards Sphinx pose again. Roll those shoulders back, breathe in. And then exhale, slide those elbows out to the sides. Come on down, maybe shift your hips a little bit side to side. And slide your hands in by your low ribs and let your heart come forward into Cobra just as much as when we were seated and letting that heart come forward before. Go ahead and pull your elbows back, stretch the chest forward, feel it leading outwards rather than upwards. It can go up too, but outwards first. Inhale, exhale, soften down, and then go up one more time. Inhale, Cobra pose. Stay there, relax your shoulders. One more inhale, feel that heart move forward. Exhale, soften down. And then press ourselves up onto our hands and knees. And then walking your hands forward, taking a little rest in puppy dog. Perhaps your head comes down onto the floor. Our next pose is going to be a forward fold. If you need to get off of your knees right now and just come to standing and relax there, go for it. If you're willing to stay in puppy dog, if your body is happy with staying in puppy dog for 2 more breaths, that's where we'll be. And then start lifting your head up, walking your hands back. Go ahead and step your feet up to your hands. Come into a forward fold. Let your hamstrings relax. If you don't already have your hands on your legs, you'll bring them up to your shins or maybe the bottoms of your thighs and come up about halfway. Tail back, heart forward. And then keeping that shape, bring your hands to your hips, lead with the heart to come up. And then rest your hands down by your sides. Bringing your feet in about hip width apart, hip bone width apart. The toes facing forward, arms by your sides. Let your arms kind of float up off of your torso a little bit so there's a little bit more room underneath the arms. If this starts to feel tense in your shoulders, just let the hands soften down. But if you can find a little bit of space, also be sure that the back of your heart is open, so if the shoulder blades are gliding back too much, giving them some room from each other. The fingertips spread out, the fronts of the hips lift, the toes spread out on the floor. Maybe closing your eyes and using this as an opportunity to be connected with your body, with any changes that happen in your mind and your thoughts, noticing if you're still breathing as easily without sight to assist you. Finish your exhale. Open your eyes, relax your hands in your shape. We'll come into tree pose as one of our balancing poses today. Go ahead and come if you want to come any closer towards a wall or a bookshelf. You can bring your foot up onto your thigh or up onto your calf. Let the hips open up. And then take an open armed tree pose. So if you need to hold on to something, then open the other arm. If you can open up both arms and maybe still be near something to catch it, go for it. But try not to melt in your tree pose. Push down into your standing foot to feel that lift. Can you be open in both the front and the back of your rib cage? Noticing any changes that might have occurred in the way that you're breathing or thinking, or your eyebrows are composing themselves. Breathing in. And out as you set the foot down. Give your hips a little wiggle, and just in case any sticky stuff did happen to melt its way into the body. And then coming up towards the other side. These toes, of course, can always be on the floor if that feels like a better fit for your balance in your body today. Lift the front of the pelvis, lengthen that knee out, and open the arms. So we're creating a lot of space in these shapes where there's room for the breeze to roll around, whether or not you actually have any breeze around. Kind of inviting that into our experience, feeling the air, the cooling air, breathing in. Exhaling, arms down, feet down, a little wiggle out. Another balancing pose, you might want to stay near something just in case you're going to want to grab it. You're going to go ahead and take your right foot and cross it back behind your left. And then reach up and catch onto your right wrist. We'll take a little side bend. Notice the arm comes forward slightly. Let the belly rest back here. So you get a little bit more of the back stretch. Finish your exhale. Your inhale, take it up. We'll take it into a forward fold. You might hold onto your shins or the floor or a block. Try to relax your head and neck. And then the balance here is to come up to standing. So this is where you might grab a wall as you come up, or just in case you need it. And then once you get up to standing, uncross your legs and come over to the other side, taking your left leg behind your right. Reach up and hold onto your left wrist. There's a little bump of the hips over towards the left, just a little. Relaxing the shoulder blade off the spine on that left side. Soften the belly back. Inhaling here, exhaling here. And then coming up to a fold forward over those legs. And they can bend a little bit. You might not go very far. You might just practice keeping the balance of the weight even on both feet. Soften into your exhale and then start to come up to standing. Once you get there, uncrossing your legs, wiggling out anything that might have gotten a bit sticky. And take the legs really open this time. Feet about underneath the hands, nice and wide. Take an inhale. And then exhale, fold forward, holding your shins or the floor, bending your knees if that's helpful. Relaxing your head a little bit more than you thought you needed to. One more breath in. One more breath out. Small bend in the knees. Bring the hands up to your hips. Send your heart forward. And then slowly lead with the heart. Come all the way back up. And turn your toes over towards the right side. Right toes all the way, left toes in slightly. Shift your hips over. So you start to feel this lengthening of that inseam of the leg. And then taking your long spine over, bringing the hand down to your shin or a block or your thigh or to the floor, and maybe you open the top arm. We're talking about the free space around the body, and if we think about the negative space here, like the space that the body's not occupying, that's really where you can see these triangles coming in, yeah? So if I have like bent limbs, it's muscle triangle-like. If I have a rounded spine, it's more pizza-like. And we'll stick to triangle spaces as much as possible. Breathing in. Breathing out. And draw your belly in. Lead with that heart. Come all the way up. Relax your arms down. Move your shoulders around a little bit. We'll come back into triangle pose and do a little bit of movement with the arm, kind of like a big like air guitar sort of thing, just to move around the shoulder joint. So shift your hips back. Come down to that place where you're comfortable. If this was a little bit more than comfortable, come back to a place where you're comfortable so you feel steady about letting your arm drop forward. And then inhale, opening it up. Exhale, let it drop down. Inhale, open it up. 3 more times. Really feel yourself opening up on your inhale. Last one. And stand yourself up. Switch the feet over so that the left feet are going all the way over. The right toes come in slightly, and then the hips shift first. We start to feel this lengthening and then sliding the hand down and opening the top arm. If that feels good, if it feels better to be here, if you feel more connected, you're still lengthening out through your spine, feeling this good stretch in the left leg. You still have your left big toe on the ground, ears away from shoulders. Exhale. Draw the belly in, lift yourself all the way up. And then we'll come back down into triangle pose, this time using that arm circle. So shifting the hips, coming forward, arm coming up. Breathing in. Exhale, swooping it down. Inhale, opening it up, heart 2. Exhale, arm comes down. Inhale, open up. 3 more on your own breath. exhaling, standing up and taking the toes to face forward. And once again, coming down into that forward fold, just noticing if it's changed, you're experiencing it, your attachment to it, your attachment around your neck bones. Breathing in, breathing out. Bend your knees, bring your hands to your hips, lift your heart up. Lead with the heart to come all the way up. And then bring your feet in closer towards each other. Bring your big toe edges to touch, so your feet are right in next to each other. Take your hands behind your back. If you can interlace your fingers behind your back, go for it to get a little bit bigger chest stretch. If it feels more supportive and better on your shoulders, to bring your hands to your hips. Put my wrists in and my fingers out here, and moving the hips forward. If you're into the slightly more challenging modification because you don't have the support of the hands on your hips, you can interlace your fingers back behind you, hips forward, heart up, looking upwards, relaxing your collarbones, breathing in, and relax the shoulders, forward, heart back, let the shape go. Coming down to a seat, and you can come down through a squat. If you want to challenge yourself through your legs, coming on down and seeing where your hips meet the floor. Although, by the way, just come down all the way on your own if that seems better for you. When you get on your back, bring your knees into your chest. Just let your body meet the mat. Letting gravity take hold of your back, of your head. Then grabbing onto your right leg as you let your left leg not only slide out, but actively reaching outwards through the left leg. Even if the leg's really bent, you can still reach out through that leg. You can feel like the thigh bone sort of moving away from you. Feel the foot pressing out and forward, even if the leg isn't straight. If it does get straight, great. It does not have to get straight. As much as you are activating your left leg, can you soften the right leg? A little different energy going on there. Rather than grabbing that leg in and making it come in towards you, you're instead trying to extend the other side. Notice where the mind goes and if the breath has gone away. Breathing in, breathing out. And relax your left leg a bit. You're going to roll over on the right side until your foot comes down. So for a lot of us, you might have rolled all the way over until you're already on the hip. If you're able to just kind of let that foot and the knee open up, if that's comfortable on your inner thigh, that's good too. You could roll all the way over here. And then you're going to open both of your arms. And I'm kind of rolled over on my hip here. So if you take that arm out and it's not reaching the ground, just go ahead and bring it back behind your head so the elbow opens. It's a little bit different. Find a way to open both sides of your chest. Maybe you start to look up at the ceiling. Inhaling here. Exhaling here. And then you're going to take your leg, your right leg, and you're going to bring it up and over towards the left side. So you're a little more closed off twist. We had more of an open spiral. And we have a more condensed spiral. Relax into the front of your right shoulder, softening your belly, finding your breath in this space. Breathing out. And coming back to the center. Taking your legs, stretch it out. And then open your arms. Take a big full inhale. Slowly let the air deflate. Doing that one more time. Inhale, filling up. And exhale, emptying out. And then taking your left leg in. You might hold your shin, or you can hold on to the back of your thigh. It doesn't have to be in close or in super tight. But let your right leg be the active, expanding leg. So that one's really pushing forward. Even if the leg's not straight, you can still push the foot forward. It doesn't actually move, it's just isometric. So there's action without movement, intention without movement. Softening the left side. Breathing in, breathing out. And then taking your left leg, you're going to roll over to your left side until that foot comes down somewhere that is supported, isn't feeling precarious or weird about the knee joint. You might come all the way over onto the thigh, in which case this right hip lifts up quite a bit. You might just come down so that your foot is resting on that left leg. And then open both of your arms. Let your ribs open, your chest soften, your hips open. There's a spiraling, you can feel it. Doesn't matter how much you're rolled over towards the left side, there's at least a little bit of spiraling of your right ribs open in this position. Breathing in, breathing out. Taking your left leg and bringing it over towards the right. So now you have a lot more spiraling in a more closed position as you roll the left ribs open and the left collarbones open and soften the belly. Stay here as you breathe in. Soften as you breathe out. And then coming back to the center, extend your legs out, reach your arms up and open. Take an inhale, fill yourself up. And exhale, slowly let it all seep out, all the energy in the breath. Inhale, feel yourself fill up. Exhale, deflate. And then rolling over onto your belly. Once again, making that pillow for your head with your hands. Resting your head, taking 3 deep breaths, softening your shoulders. And then start to lift your head up. You'll take your right arm out to the right, palm down, left hand under the left shoulder, roll the left leg back, and find that open stretch in the front of your chest. Soften your belly here. Deep inhale, deep exhale. And then rolling over onto your belly and switching sides, taking your right hand in, your left hand out, and then look over towards the right, letting your right leg roll behind you. Rest your head. Soften your shoulders, soften your belly. As you finish your exhale, start to roll yourself over onto your belly. And then roll until you're on your side, just facing towards the screen, or maybe just onto your side so that you're mirroring me. Whatever works for you. Just we'll talk about top leg, bottom side, yeah. So your bottom arm, you're gonna walk that hand out a little bit. And then you're going to take your leg and you're going to slide it up until you come into fallen tree pose. And if your foot's on your knee, that's okay as long as it's not bothering your knee. Try to get it so that the weight is at least a little bit below the knee. And if you're anywhere on the knee, just don't press into your leg. However high you're able to get. There we go, words. You'll stay there. Can you make your bottom leg more active? Which is a little bit more like standing tree, and it's a little bit more like some of that work we were doing where we were holding the knee into us earlier. And it also is a little bit of a challenge to steadiness in the breath. I noticed mine changed significantly when I made that adjustment. You come back to that soft, steady, easy flow of breath, just like you're laying around stretching your shoulder like you just were. Breathing in. Breathing out. And then relax that bottom leg. You're going to bend this leg and you're going to reach up and you're going to hold the underside of your top leg. And then you're going to rest the top of your thigh bone down towards the bottom foot. And if that's going well, you're going to take the arm inside of the leg and you're going to reach for your ankle. You might hold on to the inside of your knee. You might reach up and hold on to your foot. And you're going to let the sits bone reach down towards your bottom foot. And if that's going well and that's interesting to you, you might start to extend the leg, which means if you were holding onto your foot, you might need to hold onto your ankle. You just go little bit by little bit. Whenever you start to straighten the leg and the hip rolls back, you're going to start resting it down towards the bottom foot, and maybe the foot gets further away from you. Don't worry about the leg getting straight. It could, but instead of just snapping into a straight leg, can you let the foot keep seeking the space a little further away from you? Breathing in. Breathing out. Let the leg go. On down. And then start to roll over towards the other side. I'm just going to flip because not facing you is weird. And when you get down, lengthening yourself out. You'll move your arm out. I don't have any room, so I'm going to fake it. You'll take your top leg up into tree pose, just trying to avoid pressure on the knee. You can always kind of seek out there exactly where that right space is, and let your bottom leg be the active one. So really pushing out through that foot. If you want to challenge your balance, you can take your hand up onto your thigh instead of on the floor. Active bottom leg, and hopefully still a steady, smooth flow of breath. Maybe even steady, smooth thoughts if you're lucky, or practiced at it. Breathing in, breathing out. Relax that bottom leg. You're going to bend it now so it's a little bit more supportive. Reaching outside of your leg, hold on to the bottom of your thigh, kind of the inside of your knee here, and practice resting your thigh bone, the top of your thigh bone, the sits bone in your hip down towards the bottom foot. And then maybe taking your hand And reaching for the outside of the shin somewhere, maybe down towards the foot. And then you probably had some resting of the thigh bone back. Can you rest that thigh bone down towards the bottom of the foot now? Finding the softness in your breath. Softness in your brain and your eyebrows. Maybe the foot starts to escape you a bit. You can adjust where you're holding your leg. Try to keep adjusting where the hip is so it goes down towards that bottom foot. Just give me more space in the low back for this movement. Breathing in. Breathing out. Rest the leg. Roll over onto your back. Set your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Let your knees knock against each other. Bring your hands onto your body. Softening into your breath. Coming into happy baby, bringing your knees up towards your armpits, reaching up to hold onto your shins or the outsides of your feet, finding stillness or some movement, depending on what your body's asking for. Your hips be heavy. One more round of breath. Release your feet down. Step them out a little bit wider than your hips, knees facing up. Bring your arms open into some space. Maybe you hold your elbows. Maybe your elbows are open. Maybe your hands are open. Bringing them open to some capacity that helps your heart just gently lift up. And then flex your feet. Let both of your knees go over towards the right side. And let your left knee reach forward. Let your heart float up. And then let the shoulders float down. Sort of drift down instead of arcing upwards or feeling any tension in the front of those shoulders. Just let it go. Big breath in. Big breath out. And let the legs come up. Keeping the feet flexed, roll them over towards the other side. Reaching that right knee away, softening your belly, relaxing the insides of the shoulders. Breathing in. Breathing out. Coming back to the center. Bring the knees up. Feet still a little wider than hips. Let the knees knock against each other. Drift the arms down by your sides. Give a little snuggle of the shoulder blades in underneath the heart and ask yourself if there's anything you need at the end of your practice. If there's another pose, movement, adjustment of any sort, please take it. You're welcome to take legs up against the wall or a seated meditation for your Shavasana. You could stay here or start to slide the legs out. Finding corpse pose. Feel free to set yourself up. Maybe you place something underneath the knees or underneath the head in order to feel more supported. So you find that place where you are supported by the floor and by the tools that you have used to ease your body. Settle in and enjoy this very well-deserved rest. Start to come back to your body. Scanning the body. Noticing your breath. Feeling the breath in your body. Start to roll yourself over to one side, curling inwards in a moment of gratitude for your practice, the opportunity to share our practice. Taking your time and coming up when you're ready to your own version of a comfortable seat. Bringing your hands to your heart. Feeling the practice with one Om together. Big breath in. Bowing down to the love and light within each of our hearts. Namaste.
Have a good week, April and Melanie. Bye.
Bye, Sylvia. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.